Hey, this is Dave doing an update video on my house build. So we finally got the whole house painted, which was a gigantic job. I'm not gonna walk around too much on the house because we just got the painting done, and how much can you really show painting being done on a house? And we've been doing a lot of wiring. We have the garage pretty much wired. You know, we got home runs. I'm just gonna use this video to clump all the stuff together, what we did. I hard piped a 3/4 pipe for 2 EV chargers in my garage because who knows what the future is gonna bring. Obviously, cars are being pushed with the electric now, and I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but mark my words, if my video's here after I'm gone, it will be nuclear. Someday we'll have nuclear reactors in our cars, some type of fusion or fission, or some type of maybe water-based hydrogen type engines. But for now, fossil fuels and electric is the best us humans can come up with at the time. But yeah, we got one here for Nikki's side, one for my side. And you pipe it because honestly, piping it and pulling the wire later, it gives you future, because if EV cars don't become a thing, or it just stays fossil fuels for the rest of our lives while we live here, this gives you the option to pull pretty much anything in here. So you can do welders and just all kinds of stuff. But basically, it makes the pipe big enough to where you can pull like number 6 THHN in. And I like the flexibility of just pulling it down. It was kind of a challenge to get these pipes in, but and doing it this way, wire is so expensive right now. The pipe was cheap. So just piping it in gives me the flexibility of getting this drywalled and insulated without having to purchase the wire. So that was actually, I would say that was one of the bigger factors in it, is just not having to buy the wire right now. But anyways, we did that. We've got, I just used this as the home run chase right here. And then I recommend, whenever you're wiring, put circuits in that are for future. So I ran 4 circuits up there, label it spare 1, 2, 3, and 4. I label it what panel it's coming from, which it's coming from down here. And the reason why we ran the wires in this chase is because we brought that concrete up higher, and that concrete is what made it possible to not have steps going into, so we can just walk in from the garage. But anyways, yeah, so all that's done. We're gonna be doing some, we have this ready to go. Justin obviously is working for me. I have my nephew Luke working for me. And I researched how to do a networking system with the data wire. We have speaker wire. So there's gonna be speakers in the house where you can do full home audio, so you can listen to like podcasts or just music. I'm a big fan of music, I always have, so I figured since it's open studded, it's actually fairly inexpensive to run the wires. And then the good thing about low voltage is you don't have to legally put it in a box. So if you are doing future for higher voltage, 120, 240 volt, and you leave it in the wall, it's against code. It has to be put into a box, and it can't be put into a box with a cover plate behind the wall. It has to have a cover plate so you can access it in the wall. So it gives you less flexibility with the higher voltage stuff, to where if you're putting high voltage stuff for future, you kind of you're committing to something going there, unless you can strategically put it behind like a cabinet inside where you can hide it. But with this stuff, you can put it in. And so this is the fairly inexpensive side of it. And then you don't have to commit to it. You can just leave it behind the walls because it's low voltage, so there's no code against it. And so let me show you, we have these boxes, low voltage boxes, that work good because these wires are more delicate. And since they are low voltage, it's not required to have a back on the box. So this basically mounts up. Of course, the nail fell out. Let's hope that these aren't cheap. I got them off Amazon. They seem like they're gonna do the job though. And they just nail on like that. And then you have full access here for your RJ45 jacks. One really quick thing to mention is I don't think I'm gonna run coaxial cable in the house because with this wire being able to carry 10K or 10 gigabytes, I guess, or 10K, 10G, there's ways of getting, even if you did get a cable box, there's ways to use that now. And this stuff's the way of the future. And most people who put coaxial cable in their house right now, as of 2025, all the stuff I've researched on YouTube, nobody ends up using it. Streaming is the future. I have a bone to pick with cable anyways, because back in the day, 80s, like, you know, we love our MTV days, where part of buying cable was you're purchasing a monthly subscription so you don't have to have commercials. Well, now in 2025, I just can't stand it. It's like I'm paying for TV and I'm just getting bombarded with commercials all the time. So I'm done with it. I'm all about Hulu, Netflix. I'm all about the streaming services. So that right there, good for streaming services. And what this speaker wire is going to be able to do from like the network in the basement is you can put your security cameras on any TV you want. You can take audio from any TV you want and put it, you know, all through your house. So like if you're having a get together and you want sound to go through, like, you know, you have the big game on or something. I kind of understand how it all goes now. There's like components, and I learned how they, you know, just how they feed into each other. And then you basically control it through like a smart app, like, or just an app on your phone. And it's not like I'm getting fancy where I want to wake up and then I have a light turn on and have a microchip in my head and I just think about the light turning on and it turns on. You can get really crazy with smart homes. I'm still one of those guys that when I want a light to turn on in a room, I just want to walk in and hit a switch and that's it. And they do have smart switches and you can do some of the controls with that. But I did my wiring the conventional way. And then when it comes to TVs and internet, Wi-Fi signal and all that, I'm gonna upgrade to a network. And then I'll be doing more videos on that. But the main reason why I'm doing a video, I was researching this stuff and I could be wrong. I hope people comment on this and say, hey, they do sell these. This is the link, or this is a store locally that sells them. So whenever you're doing vinyl siding, you know, I did cement board here, but if you're doing vinyl siding, you can get the J blocks. I've done it 100 times and you just slide the siding behind it and then the ring pops back on for light blocks. They have it for the hose bibs and for plugs and all that stuff. So real quick, let me show you. I know this video is just gonna cover a couple of different things. Whenever you have siding that laps, the siding obviously is at an angle. It's slightly turned like this, you know, and that's annoying when you're mounting a light. Now, a lot of people would just mount it there, but then your light's ramped up a little bit. I've always hated that. I just don't like it. I think it looks ghetto. I do it on my rental houses because sometimes if you have aluminum siding that's like 7-inch, the aluminum will curl in flat and the bottom will have more of a ramp and it tightens in flat. But this doesn't, and it's a higher end home. My plugs, I just put it in there because I didn't want to build a bunch of blocks for my plugs. I don't really want my plugs to even be shown that well. This will be fine. There's enough space there. It's going to have a big bubble anyways. I figured, what's the point of me building some decorative block and then I have the big bubble? That's a lot of extra work for very little, you know, what are you going to do? Oh, look at my nice decorative block on my plug, my outlet box. But when it comes to the lighting, it's more of an issue. And another thing that led to me deciding to do decorative blocks is when I was laying out all these lights, I decided, well, the easiest way to lay these out to where they're level instead of measuring things and making mistakes, let's just pick drilling the hole right in the center here. And that will give you a nice block, and then it makes the light centered in this crack. So let me show you the way I did it. And like I said, anyone that knows more about this than I do, I would love feedback because I couldn't find any YouTube videos or any research that sells light blocks because, you know, you put these in, you have nice boral trim, you have cement board siding, all this like very like, you know, hard concrete type, you know, more rigid materials. You don't really want to use a vinyl block there. It just, to me, that seems like it kind of cheapens it. So what we did is we took some of my white oak that I milled, you know, this is basically a tree from this forest, And we basically had 1-inch thick stock, which worked perfect because I cut, that box goes directly to the flush behind the 1/2-inch OSB. So when you have an 1.5-inch block and it recessed into the 1/2-inch, you're left over with a 1-inch box sticking out from the face of the sheathing. And so I figured, well, sure enough, it's a little off, like an 1/8 inch off, but it's fine. So I'm doing one right over here. I'll show you what we did. I'm not gonna do it because I'm holding my phone. It's not that bad. It just really isn't. Luke, Justin, and I built 15 of those blocks from scratch, and I'd say 3 hours. And that was 4 hours, pulling it out of the stack. We found the white oak in the stack here, getting all the junk off of it, pulling 3 boards out, laying it out, hole sawing it, routering it, sanding it. We didn't do a really good job sanding it. These are gonna get painted and it will be covered mostly by a light. See, we have a line here. I might actually use this. This is like, I remembered this one. It was like the worst. We didn't want to sand too far in, but this will all be painted and then the light will be covering this. But anyways, let me show you before we actually install it. You just slap it up on the face of the siding like this. It'll rock like this. You just slap it over the hole, it rocks. I level it over here, draw, and then I just rock it up and draw the top. And then you take your disc grinder with the blade, 4-inch diamond, and I like those videos where they have tools all organized and like, this is what you need. Well, this is what you need, but I'm not going to organize them for you. Very important with this crap. And my gamer name on the game, Landlord75. Wear a mask with this stuff. You don't want to breathe this stuff. But yeah, and then you disc grind it. You can only disc grind a little bit on these just to mark the face of these because you don't want to overcut too much. And then it's really easy. You just use a hammer and a chisel. I had Luke sharpen these on the grinder real sharp, and you just kind of angle it in and just chisel it out, and it just comes out fairly easy. And then what we did is we just eyeballed 4 holes. And this is white oak, so white oak is impervious to rot. They say it's right up there with cedar. And I didn't want to buy 1-inch stock of cedar, and this is nice and heavy duty. I know that white oak doesn't have a tendency to split when you put screws in it because this stuff is not the easiest to split with an axe, and it's pretty stringy. Not as bad as hickory, but I knew that it would be good for not splitting. So we just drilled small holes, and we're just going to use the small head T10 screws here. And you can see from this one what it looks like finished. And then you just caulk this wood filler and prime it. I'm going to put primer on it. And once the primer's on and it dries, because you don't really want to caulk the quad on bare wood, primer it and then caulk around with the quad. We haven't decided, do we paint it white? Do we paint it the same color as the siding? We're thinking about like a dark slate gray to tie the roof in. I'm just going to leave Justin and Nikki up to that because sometimes I just want to stay the installer and not get into the politics of what colors things are. Make sure everything's flat. We have a staple here. And then it's as simple as once you have that shape cut out, just slide it in, give it a nice smack, and then plumb it up. And then when you're planning this, you don't just randomly pick a block. You don't want the size of a block. You don't want to assume what size canopies lights have. A cheap little light, the real cheap ones for most homes, you just put a 4-inch. It's usually about 4 1/4 to 4 1/2. The bigger, nicer lights, I mean, you can get lights that are like, I don't even know, you can probably buy a $1,000 light on some mansion, but we're sticking around $100 range. We found some really nice ones but anyways, it'll say right on the box at Menards or anywhere you're buying it, the canopy size. Well, the canopy size for the ones we want, and it's a standard size that looks like it goes with all of those nicer lights. They were all the same size, so I'm like, well, I'll just use that size because I know that if I found 4 or 5 special order ones at Menards that are the same exact size, most likely if I go to a specialty store that sells lighting, like on a higher end, I'm sure that they'll have standard canopies of that size. So it's basically 4.5 inches wide by 8.5 high. So I believe we went with a, I believe 5.5 wide block by like 10 inches high. Because if you don't want to make this thing too big, it would look ridiculous. So this, basically the main goal of this, it's not really to add decor to it. It's just to add a flat surface vertical to mount your light and not have to be dictated by where these are landing. And I found that just, you can see this is centered to like the underside of this. I think that that works the best, and then the light will just be balanced in a crack. So if anyone's doing HardieBacker, maybe an electrician this could help an electrician, because I've been an electrician for many decades, and this is the first house that I was involved with like HardieBacker, and I didn't want to use vinyl, and you know, and I know that everyone's not going to have access to like hardwood white oak or something like that, but a good option with this, and plus it's going to be painted. You could probably even use a pine, but over the years with that rain chiseling on the top, I would use a wood, even if you're painting it, that's going to be impervious to rot. So white oak, cedar, and those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. I haven't really researched wood that doesn't rot, but cedar, white oak. Traditionally, white oak is a good wood that farmers used to use for fencing, and no paint, no primer, no anything. It's just right in the ground, and it would last for years. So anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up at 16 minutes. I just wanted to show how to with light blocks on cement board siding. All right, this is Dave, signing off.